An asteroid zoomed past the Earth this morning.
If it were to hit Earth, what is the impact corridor that it represents?
Scientists are closely watching a recently discovered asteroid that is being called a potential city killer.
It went past the Earth 9 times faster than a rifle bullet.
The black hole was dormant for a long time, and last year it has switched on. And when that happens, anything that is not in resonance with that vibration will fall apart.
There are fishes which are coming out of the ocean, surprising fishes, looking like an alien. We have all calamities happening since last couple of months. Now when we see anything that is not relevant to us in nature, we call it alien.
Even we are aliens because human DNA did not come about by accident. Human DNA was also created by the sages and the gods.
In the coming years, we are living in a pre-war era.
So that is the Kali Yuga. It is about fooling people, exploiting them, enslaving them.
Isn't the internet playing as a weapon over here for a lot of accession?
Internet is opening up the doors of awareness and the doors of possibility. And only a small population, I believe, is actually using the internet very constructively.
Meteor strike 2032. A lot of people are scared about that as well.
So comets serve a very important purpose in the evolution of life. And that's how I came at the date of 2025 for the end of the Kali Yuga.
Hello, hi. You're watching Passion Evolution, the podcast where we dedicatedly talk about passion and evolution. So today we have our first guest on this podcast as Bibhu D Mishra. He is an alumni of IIT and IIM as well. So our guest, Mr. Mishra, has been working as an IT consultant for more than 15 years, which led him to travel globally. Not just for the workplaces, but also to the mysterious, sacred, and mythological places. So it all gradually became a passion for him to seek truth and knowledge. So during this journey, he has started writing blogs and articles around 2012, and his articles have also been featured on various websites and platforms like Graham Hancock's website, New Dawn, Science to Sage, etc. And finally, he published his book in 2023 by the name Yuga Shift, the end of Kali Yuga and the impending planetary transformation, putting across all his observations and anecdotes for the curious readers to read in this book. So in today's session, he enlightens us about the current happenings in the world, about the mass consciousness, about self-awareness, and of course about the Yuga shifts, as in how Kali Yuga is shifting its consciousness from being descending to now ascending. I enjoyed talking to him and it was very interesting, very relevant as well to the current happenings. I hope you will enjoy listening or watching this podcast. My name is Anupam Anand and let's get this started. And before we start, please make sure to subscribe the channel. Hello, sir. So finally, welcome, and I have been waiting for you to come here. Welcome to the podcast. I have been waiting because, first of all, the reason is that a lot of things what I have been experiencing myself, ideologically, I would say, ethically, ideologically, what I think as a human being, a lot of things you have contemplated and put it across in a very decent, very logical way. Bibhu sir, I would welcome you first and I would request you to give a small, very small intro. You are an IITian, you are an IIM alumni, and you have written the book Yuga Shift, that is making a lot of noise. So I want you to give a small introduction about yourself so that our audience will get to know about you a little more.
Well, like most Indians, I started my option was engineering or medical. And so I did my engineering, and then the next step was either to take a job or do MBA. So I did MBA. Then I worked as a technology consultant for a long time, for nearly 2 decades, close to it. And during that time, I got interested in all the ancient civilizations, their, the sculptures, the architecture, the ancient wisdom. And I started traveling to a lot of places. And I started realizing that a lot of things that I read about my ancient civilization, whether it's the Mahabharata or the Ramayana or the Golden Age or the Treta Yuga, they may not necessarily be mythical. They're actually based on facts which can be scientifically found out and determined. So that got me interested in that whole topic. I started a blog around 15 years ago. I think in 2010, I started that blog. I kept on researching and writing. And I wrote an article about the Yuga cycle way back in 2012, which actually forms the bedrock of the book that I wrote later in 2023. And so that kept on growing. And finally, I came up with sufficient ideas to write this book called Yuga Shift, which I feel is very important because we seem to be at the point of transition out of the Kali Yuga, the current age of ignorance and darkness, into a higher age.
Okay.
But that transition is not going to be very smooth. It's going to be turbulent and bumpy. And so people need to be aware of it.
Okay, I'll keep the book part for a bit later. For now, I just want to inquire more, dig into more into about this passion of yours. So you fall from a science background, and being a science background student, how come arts and stories and such, seeking of truth, I would say, seeking of truth is a thing usually artists do. Artists they go out of the mainframe, they go out of the loop, and then they think of the process, because what you're thinking right now, that's why I try to relate the thing that I have also been experiencing the same thing. After my engineering, I have done 10 years of anchoring. I have experienced crowd, experienced a lot of places, cities, and people also. And when I get to learn and observe things, I see that, okay, there's a lot to learn beyond the books as well. So your seeking of truth, where that came from? Were you not satisfied with how things are happening, or how the world is, and how they are portraying the stories?
Yeah, I mean, as far as my job is concerned, I really didn't have any problem with my job. I was doing my job pretty well. But I got interested and drawn into the Asian cultures and Asian civilizations. And being a person with a science background, with a desire for knowing truth and with a desire for finding out data and facts, I started finding out a lot of archaeological studies which have already been done, a lot of scientific studies which have already been done, which validate some of these statements which were made in our ancient texts. And then I started realizing that it is actually possible to put dates to them, to figure out when actually these events happen and what might have actually happened in those days. And a lot of information that comes down to us in the form of legends or stories or myths, whatever you call it, are actually factual data which are couched in a symbolic language. And
Correct.
once you take off that outer covering of a symbolism, then what you have is very pertinent data and facts, which are very useful and important for us today. So that is the whole thing that got me interested, that we can actually find out what happened in the past on the basis not only of what is mentioned in the text, but also the scientific findings which are regularly coming out, because science is making so much advancements and we don't read about these new discoveries which have been made. They don't get into our textbooks. And since after we come out of our school and a college, we basically stop reading these things. Then we get drawn into our workplace and your focus becomes very limited. Your focus is very narrow, but there is so much additional information, so many additional discoveries which are constantly being done. And with the help of the internet, we can now easily access those kind of discoveries. And because travel is easier now, you can also travel to some of those places and see them for yourself. So that makes it more interesting, more challenging, and also more fulfilling, because now you can actually do something or find out something that is concrete, which can be supported by facts, rather than just say that it's there in my text, therefore it must be true, because everything in my text must be true. But that's not the correct approach. You have to take a more scientific approach and find out what it actually means.
Correct. And you have those degrees as well. I mean, nowadays there is a different IIT Baba getting famous for a different reason, but you're still having that, you're still bringing a lot of credibility with your knowledge. You're putting across the knowledge, you're bringing the data. That's what makes sense. From my perspective, I do have a small perspective. I think I told you over the phone as well. When you said that, okay, 2025 is the period when the accession start of Kali Yuga. And I by mistake I said that, okay, Kali Yuga is getting over. Then you corrected me that, okay, there's an accession period. There are different periods of it. I thought that, yeah, you're very actually right. Why not the internet? Isn't the internet playing as a weapon over here for a lot of accession? I mean, there is a lot of information flooded with internet itself. We are getting more connected and we are getting more clarity if we want that. Otherwise, there is a lot of illusion. Maya is there to keep you away from everything. But since 2012 in India, I would say in my hands, internet was there. And since 2000s, last 2 3 decades, we have had internet. So can we relate that as an accession period as well? When you started writing, I'm sure you also got your clarity. There's a clarity which is required to understand even such a small, a big thing. And for us, it's a big thing. For you, it's a small thing. To even understand such small things, you need to have a lot of clarity, and it would have not come in just 2 years or 3 years. It would have come since a long term. So can we focus more on that? How you came to this?
Yeah, I mean, the internet is definitely one of the drivers which is helping in the, generating more awareness about what a lot of different things, not only about our past, but also the present state of the world. Earlier, our knowledge about global geopolitics was very limited. Now we can easily access that information. So internet is opening up the doors of awareness and the doors of possibility. And like you said, it depends on how we take that information and integrate it within ourselves. If you are only watching certain types of information or certain types of shows, then you're cutting yourself out from that possibility of raising your vibrations, raising your awareness. And only a small population, I believe, is actually using the internet very constructively. A large fraction of the population is mostly using it for entertainment, which is not bad per se, but we also
There
have
should be a
a
balance. There should be
there
a
should be a balance, right? In our culture, for instance, we talk about dharma, artha, kama, moksha.
Hmm.
Dharma is our duty. We have to fulfill our duty to our family. Artha is work. We need to work for a living. Kama is we need to have some entertainment, some pleasure. That is one part of the internet. And then moksha, where we strive for self-awareness and self-realization. And we get rid of all our ego burdens. And the moksha component right now is very small. I mean, people are so caught up in the artha part of their lives that even the duty is suffering, karma is suffering, and moksha is practically non-existent. So,
yeah.
so it's a very disbalanced way of life that we're leading as per the ancient texts. And to get back to a state of happiness, to a state of contentment, from where we can actually make a positive difference
I
to
think
the
I think this was very much said at the end of your Kali Yuga by Krishna that फल की चिंता मत कर अब तू बस काम कर whatever you're doing you do it, you don't worry about the fruits. I think that is still being followed, I guess.
Yeah. So unless you balance out your life, what we'll see in the outer world is also a lack of balance, lack of harmony, a lack of peace, more fighting and violence and discord. So the balance in the outer life is reflecting the lack of balance in our inner life. So
True.
rather than pointing fingers here and there, what we should be doing is to focus on ourselves and ask ourselves those big questions. Am I living in balance? Am I content? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do? Am I raising my vibrations and my awareness? Am I following the path of moksha? So these are questions that every person should ask himself and and work according to that.
True. So during 2012, you got this clarity, and you thought about writing about all everything relating. So what I conclude from all the podcasts I've seen about yours, and you have been delivering different speeches and talking about your dates. I feel what you say is very correct when you point out that everything is connected. Mostly, first of all, I would ask you to talk about all these religions we have had in all different eras, Romans or Greeks or Aztecs or any religion has been saying the same thing again and again. And also, it's kind of very similar. The stories are very similar, and that is how I think you could come to a conclusion that these are the dates, these are the findings of yours.
Yeah, true. Because when we talk about, let's say, the Yuga cycles, we think that this is only an Indian concept, but that is not true. Every ancient culture believed that time is cyclical, that we have devolved from a golden age when things were much better. Life was much easier. People were more saintly. The environment was more abundant. There was no sin, no evil, and people lived long lives in harmony. And then there's a devolution from there to an age like the Kali Yuga when there's so much discord and violence, and we see all of that around us today. And we also have lower lifespans. Our cranial capacity have shrunk. Our bodies have become smaller. There's more diseases. So these things which are mentioned in all the ancient texts, and they tell us that when we pass from one age to another, let's say we go from Satyuga to Treta Yuga or from Treta to Dwapar, there's some kind of a reset which happens, some kind of a global cleansing which happens. And only a few set of survivors, they go on to create the foundation of the next Yuga. So there's always these global resets. And we find this in the Hopi beliefs, Greek beliefs, Roman beliefs, etc. And one of the things that was one of the guiding principles for me is that the Yuga cycle is a single cycle for the whole world. It can't be of million years of duration for Hindus and only 12,000 years duration for Persians and 24,000 for Greeks. There has to be a single cycle which they're all talking about. And my objective was to find out what that cycle is, not to become too fanatical about my own beliefs, but to give equal importance and credence to the beliefs of all traditions, and then to figure out what is it that harmonizes all of these different ideas. And that's how I arrived at that particular Yuga cycle model that I described in my article, and later I refined it further with more details in my book.
Yeah, you've actually given a lot of clarity into it. And even if we put, I mean, for everything, I try to put my logic behind it. And when I think logically, that if even if the humanity would have started, we call it Satyuga because we were trying to find the first set of truth, as in how to eat, how to hunt, and how to create humanity, as in population wise. That is where I think the shivling was given to us, that okay, you have to multiply the population, bring humanity more. And I think it was any which way going to happen. So after the Satyuga, we have had different ages: silver age, bronze age, and we kept on growing. The development was happening, and the development had to bring us over here at some point. And again, there is a cyclical cycle, as you said, that we will be going through a doom. And that's what now we are seeing nowadays. There are fishes which are coming out of the ocean, surprising fishes, looking like an alien. We have all calamities happening since last couple of months. It's doubled now, doubled and tripled in the intensity. And in the coming years, we are living in a pre-war era. Every country nowadays is backing up the finance for security, for defense. They are like, okay, if we are going for war, even if they are not, but somehow the balance, or somehow the cosmos wants this to happen. I mean, and there is no denying on that.
Yeah, no, that's true, and that's because of this devolution. See, in the higher ages, people were more innocent. They were more in touch with the inner spirit. Jo Atma is Brahma. That is the whole concept. That concept came to us from the Golden Age. That in the Golden Age, people did not have so many different kinds of religions, so many different kinds of God. But at that time, the entire religion consisted of the human mind connecting to its soul, and therefore, since the soul is the creator. And the soul is the source of love and peace and truth and wisdom and joy and everything good. Then that person radiates the vibrations. Any person who comes in contact with his soul vibrations, he radiates the virtues of the soul. And that is a person that we call a saint. That is the person we call a Buddha, the enlightened one. The enlightened person radiates the virtues of the soul. And that was the religion of the Satyuga. But as we devolved along this Yuga cycle, we went further and further away from soul connection, and we fell into ego connection. So now it's all about pride, it's about money, it's about wealth, it's about control, it's about creating divisions, because when you can create divisions, that is how you can retain your power. Without the divisions, you can't have power. It is about fooling people, exploiting them, enslaving them. That is how you generate your power and your wealth. So that is the Kali Yuga. So although there has been technological development primarily over the last, let's say, 500 years, it hasn't really led us from ego consciousness to soul consciousness. The level of consciousness has actually devolved even further. Even 2 generations ago, or even 1 generation ago, our parents or our grandfathers were. They not only had very high memories, but they were more virtuous than the present generation. They really valued truth, they valued compassion, they valued charity. They had very high values, which we are very rapidly losing today. So that is what the Kali Yuga is about. It's about moving away from soul consciousness into ego consciousness. But the problem is that since there is so much technology as well, we get dazzled by that technology, and we think that, oh, we might actually be in a higher age because we have all these gadgets with us. But technology is not an end in itself. Technology is not going to make you happy. Technology is not going to restore peace and harmony in the world. It's
As
you.
as a human, you have to evolve first.
It's you who has to evolve, and there's no technology in the world which can take away your egoic thoughts, which can put you in a state of connection with your soul. There's no technology which can do that. It's something you have to do yourself.
Of course. So that's what, when you said that people treated them as a saint, the people who were in Satyuga, who were used to vibrate, they found themselves. Self-realization was there. It was very easy to do that because they had, there was no ego. And people were learning from nature. Now, when we see anything that is not relevant to us in nature, we call it alien. I mean, we can also call the same thing as alien. We have a lot of alien species around us. All we need to do is we have to learn from all the alien species, whatever we see on the Earth right now. Because I think Earth is the only place in the whole universe right now has harmony and has the mother nature to provide access of things. That is where we are seeing all the aliens coming here, the overfish or the doomsday fish, whatever it is. So I wanted to ask if this is the era right now wherein everyone is disturbed, and this is a very confusing era. What you said that intellectual, we are in full of illusion, but also intellectually everyone has gone down. Most because of the technology, I would agree to you. Our parents were much more intelligent, much more aware. Their five senses were working, and moreover, more than five senses, they had six, seven sense also. Even if I don't lie or even if I don't say the truth, my father knows that okay, things are wrong. They can feel it. They can still sense those things. I don't think we in this era, in this last couple of decades, we have found any powerful humans as such, enlightened ones. I mean, you are there, you have been trying to find your truth, but will this gradually decrease or will this gradually increase somehow? I want to know that.
We are at the cusp where we are going to go on the ascending cycle.
Right.
So, what has happened from a scientific standpoint is that over the last 12,000 years, our cranial capacity has declined by 10 to 17%. 10 to 17% is huge. This is what Darwinian evolutionary theorists have been saying, that over the last 2 million years,
Mhm.
from the state of Homo erectus to Homo sapiens, we had gained around 10% cranial volume. And that is what had led to the spurt in innovations like fire and sailing and agriculture. And now, in the last 12,000 years, we have lost the same amount of cranial volume, and they can't explain it because it doesn't tie in with their theory that we should always be increasing linearly in a linear manner. So, instead, what has happened is that our cranial capacity has declined by 10 to 12%. That's because human cranial capacity never goes in a straight line. It always goes up and down over the Yuga cycle. So it is because of this loss in cranial capacity, we have lost memory, we have lost intelligence and discrimination. We cannot distinguish between lies and truth. We are easily misled. We have also lost a lot of higher subtle powers like telepathy, like intuition, clairvoyance, which people in the higher ages possessed, and we don't have those right now. So right now we are at the cusp where all of this is going to gradually come back to us because we are now going into an ascending cycle. But before that happens, in tandem with that, there's also going to be a cleansing because there's also a lot of evil and a lot of, I would say, discord and happening in the world today. And that has to be removed for a new age to come about. Because a new age cannot be built on top of what is already there. And also over the last 200 years, we have also made a mess of the environment. I mean, our rivers and air pollution, rivers and waters and the air, everything's polluted. That has to be cleaned up as well. So it's going to be a difficult period now. But the good thing is that we are now going to go into an ascending curve. So people will have more awareness, they'll have more intuition, they will have better judgment, and they'll be able to sense what exactly is going on right now. They'll be able to judge that for themselves, and nobody has to impose it on them. That awareness is going to come from inside.
I think maybe once they are bored of everything, like, like I guess when I got bored of internet from last 10 years, 15 years, then I started finding for something extra. Or maybe I would say we are aligned because of that itself. Once I was bored. So still people are not bored of the technology. And
It's not only bored, but also when something happens, something happens in your personal life. So maybe you are actually destined to attain a state of enlightenment in this lifetime, and then something happens in your own life that pushes you in that direction. So you keep on the path of ego, and then there's more suffering and more misery, and then at some point you hit rock bottom, or some kind of you know some kind of a state in your life, and it's a crisis point. And that point you start to look for information as to what is going to make it better. And that's our evolutionary journey. That's when we start looking for information that is going to put us on the upward track. And that is what a lot of people are going to go through now in this particular period.
And a lot of them have missed it still. I mean, they don't know about it. There's no realization about it still, because even if we go 100 years back, there were people who were among the war. Like even a person from your place, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, a person like him is so enlightened, he's so learned, but then still he was among the chaos. I mean, he was in the part of world wars, and he was among all chaos, but still he was the enlightened soul. And there are still people like you who are being an angel to tell people that, okay, you have to realize that you have to awaken yourself. You are not awakening yourself still. And if you don't awaken yourself, the coming years, it will be a difficult one for you for sure. And that we are seeing right now. Anything we are manifesting right now since last couple of decades, it's happening very soon. The karmic results are also happening very soon. Like anyone for that matter, some people actually have got convicted for what they have done, which was not happening before.
Right. A lot of evil is, see, since we're at that cusp, and what has happened is that, and this is something I wrote in my book, is that this Yuga cycle is regulated by the energy that comes to us from the galactic center, from the central black hole. The black hole was dormant for a long time, and last year it has switched on. It is now radiating bright flashes of light, which means it is now going to get brighter and brighter, and all of that vibrations is now coming into the planet. And when that happens, anything that is not in resonance with that vibration will fall apart, and all the lies and all the skeletons will come out of the cupboard. All the lies will get exposed. This will happen inevitably. You don't have to do anything. We'll see it right out there in the open, because of how the events will happen one after the other. So the lies will get exposed, and people will be now able to decide for themselves what is true and what is false. What is the path that I need to take for myself, and what is the path should not take for myself. So that will become clear.
The choices will be very more clear, what to do and what not to do. I mean, you talked about the black hole, the Sagittarius A you're talking about, right? So how does that impact? As a scientist, I'm sure you have researched about it. How does this planetary makes any planetary congestion or alignment? How does it make a difference to us? And even the Sagittarius A you're talking about is changing shifts, I guess. From my logic point of view, I would say कि ये mother phase से father phase से mother phase में चला गया, because from what I am seeing, it was a lot of fire destruction in the last year. Now it is a lot of water destruction. So that's why I think it was in the father phase. Now it's in the mother phase, Shiv Shakti phase. It was. So how does that affect, sir?
See the central black hole of any galaxy, that is the energy source which powers a galaxy. Scientists now regard the black holes of galaxies as the central engine of a galaxy. And this is the source that we called as Brahma, who sits at the navel of the universe. Vishnu Nabi mein jo baithta hai, the Brahma who is sitting at Vishnu Nabi, that is the central black hole. The black hole is not really a black hole. We are calling it a black hole, but it could just be a primordial consciousness, just consciousness which is manifesting this whole galaxy. And what happens is that what we have seen in other galaxies is it goes through phases. Sometimes it becomes very dormant. That is the phase it was in right now. And then it suddenly becomes very bright, and it emits huge amount of radiation at all frequencies, infrared, visible light, gamma rays. Throughout that frequency, it radiates light. And then after some time, it again switches off. And then the light in our planet goes up gradually, because there's a light echo in the outer galaxy. So it doesn't fall off just like that. It gradually falls off. So what I said in my book is that when the light switches on, that is when we go into the ascending cycle, when everything improves. And at the end of that ascending cycle is the Satyug, when everything is like brilliant. I mean, we almost become gods on earth. But when that light switches off, That's when it's the descending cycle. That's when we go through Treta and Dwapara Yugas, when there's a gradual degradation in our consciousness, the physical size decreases, more diseases, and more violence, and so on and so forth. So it's the light which is deciding that, and that light triggers genetic mutations within our body. The mutations in our genes, that is what increases, takes us from the lower ages to higher ages, and the degrading mutations takes us from the higher ages to the lower ages. So right now the black hole has switched on, it has become active, which means we'll start getting this DNA upgrades. And as soon as you start getting those DNA upgrades, your consciousness is going to change. You don't need to wait for a scientist to tell you. You don't need to wait for me to tell you what is happening. You will understand it yourself because the light is changing. It's like the cycle of day and night. From midnight to noon, what happens? The light gradually increases in strength. And from noon to midnight, it again gradually decreases. Similarly, in the cycle of seasons, from winter to summer, slowly the intensity of light is increasing. And then again, the intensity of light is decreasing. And this is on a much bigger scale. The Yuga cycle is on a much bigger scale because the black hole is the central sun. There's a nucleus in the center of the galaxy. That nucleus is the central sun. And that light is regulating the Yuga cycle, and that light also increases and decreases, and so we have this ascending and the descending cycle of the ages.
And that's why I think we have had the astrology in India since a long time. I think Ravan was the first one to put it together, the first astrologer, biggest astrologer India had. And after that, there were many rishis and munis. And before also there were a lot of people who believed in astrology. I mean, Ravana at a limit that he tried to control all the planets and he tried to control his childbirth at a particular time. So these knowledge of astrology or the planets, it actually affects us a lot, and people have no idea about it still. I mean, a lot of people, they have. Maybe the Ambanis do have, because that's why they are doing so much of charity and they are like, okay, fine, we have to balance things out. But a lot of common men, they still have no idea about it, that how these planetary effects actually affect us, alignments. We get affected because of that. I think so. The black hole change shift is happening after 12,000 years, sir, or this has happened frequently? It happens.
No. It's now it's going to go into. It's already switched on, and it's just going to get more and more intense. The vibrations is going to increase in intensity over the next 12,000 years. So that's going to be the ascending cycle when, and what happens is that this radiation, it not only triggers the genetic mutations that increases our physical size, our lifespan, our intellect, our cranial capacity. What it also does is kills off the disease-causing germs, because any high-frequency radiation like gamma ray or X-ray, it kills off disease-causing germs. So people, the kind of problems that we have today with so many different kind of diseases, that is slowly going to disappear, and you wouldn't have the need for so many different kind of medicines and other things.
Then the medical industry will say that, no, it's my credit, don't take away my credit.
Yeah. Then you'll just have Ayurveda, which is for long-term benefits. You wouldn't need so many different kind of pharmaceuticals. And we know that
I'm totally against medical industry. For me, I have never I've never worshipped allopathy. I have actually traditionally, मेरी माँ ने जो बना के दिया कि देख ये खा ले सही हो जाएगा, and that has worked actually.
Yes, because the normal allopathic medicines, they have a lot of side effects. We know that, and they don't cure the disease. They just suppress the symptoms. And we also know there's so much animal testing which is done for those medicines. We don't talk about it. And I feel really bad about that. I mean, when you read about the kind of testing that goes on behind the scenes, it's really sad. And we can't have that kind of a...
There are big foundations behind it. So I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, that is also the other thing that we can't talk about. Thing is that this kind of science cannot go into an ascending cycle. So as an ascending cycle, the science has to be in harmony. You cannot harm nature. You can't harm living beings in the manner that we are doing today. So a lot of science that we have today is going to shift. Is going to shift into different kind of sciences, which is based on, which does not take away from our sole purpose, which does not harm the environment, which does not disturb harmony and balance. So a lot of the sciences will go away. Only a little portion will remain, which will go into the ascending cycle, and then we'll build on top of that.
Science has always been like that girlfriend of this era. Like it keeps changing its mood swings
Right.
every single century. It's keep changing its writing thing theory and everything keeps changing. I That's why I think maybe I was not that great of a engineer. I was good at arts as well, but science is where my father pushed. Okay, go there. But he also doesn't realize that it keeps changing. There is a lot of theories, but there's no proven theory. I think you got your science of this theory from Saptarishi calendar back then. Like it is a very old calendar which you followed. And Saptarishi are the ones who have actually generated the population on the earth, who have spread the population. And I'm sure they are the ones who have spread the knowledge. So I think you come from there. Saptarishi calendars you have read, and that is why I think that science is still relevant for us as an Indian, and that's how we can enlighten ourselves. And can you focus on that a little bit, Saptarishi calendar, what it has to say, and the same things, but what extra knowledge you got from that there?
Yeah, the seven sages or the Saptarishis, they were not considered as normal human beings. If you read the Vedic text, they'll say the Saptarishis are the mind-born sons of Brahma. They're mind-born. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says the Saptarishis were born from my mind, and from them came all the creatures of the world. So they they populated the earth with all the creatures, and they also gave us all the Vedic wisdom. Every piece of knowledge that we have, whether it's astronomy or music or grammar or literature, whatever, everything was composed by the seven sages. They are the primary sources of Vedic knowledge. We have human bodies, but there are other spirit beings which do not have these kind of bodies. It's just our illusion that we are the only living entities on this planet. There are many other levels of beings, and they can actually take on physical forms if they want to. They can shapeshift into different kinds of forms, and even humans can have the forms. Right now, 98% of our DNA is junk DNA. It does not code for any protein. Can you imagine if that 98% suddenly starts coding for protein? What kind of powers you might suddenly have? Because what the text says that there are 8 siddhis, the Ashta Siddhis. And these 8 siddhis are things like you can increase your body size, decrease your body size, become invisible, you can cure any diseases.
I remember only one, Lehimam, which makes you fly.
You can fly, you can weaponize the elemental forces of nature, the things that the astras that the people used to use in the higher ages, the
I think
weapons.
Indra Devta was the first one to achieve all these siddhis.
Ashta Siddhis. So when you attain the Ashta Siddhis through yogic practices, then you become God. Then you no longer incarnate on this planet, but that doesn't mean it ceased to exist. You incarnate, then you are at a higher dimension. You can manifest in a physical form if you want, or not manifest in a physical form. And in the higher ages, humans were in contact with these higher entities. Today we call them aliens because they come and go. But
I would say anyone for that matter, sir, if someone is looking way vibrant, if he's talking sense and giving the logic to people, that person would be an alien in a golden age. People were not aware, maybe. Even
we are aliens because
Yeah,
human DNA did not come about by accident. Human DNA was also created by the sages and the gods. So we are also aliens on our own planet. Everyone in this planet is an alien because we actually were designed by other elemental forces of nature. So
all elements from the universe, actually.
Yes. So it's no point, not believing in aliens when we are aliens ourselves.
True.
So these higher dimensional beings gave us the guidance in the higher ages. And what the tradition says is that the 7 sages, they incarnated in the golden age, then they stayed on for some time. And in the Kali Yuga, these sages, they disappear. They don't interact with us anymore. Because what I think is that this is the time they take some rest. This is the night time, they take some rest, and then they come back again in the ascending cycle. And as per the tradition, there are 7 stars of the Great Bear constellation, which is the Ursa Major constellation. It is located near the North Pole. And there are 7 very prominent stars there, which are collectively called the Saptarishi Mandala. These 7 stars, they influence the stars located along the ecliptic, which is the path which is taken by the sun across the sky. they influence 27 nakshatras for a period of 100 years, which adds up to a cycle of 2,700 years. This is called the Saptarshi calendar or the Saptarshi Yuga. So I took the Saptarshi, and the Saptarshi calendar was widely used in ancient India. It was the most important calendar used in ancient India for tracking the genealogies of kings.
Right.
So it was, we don't use it right now because of the Gregorian calendar that we use. But earlier, the Saptarishi calendar was the most important calendar. And
In South India, they used to worship Saptamada deities, I guess.
yeah, Saptamata deities are also there because the seven sisters of the Pleiades, so Kritika sisters, they were said to be married to the Saptarishis. They're the wives of the Saptarishis. So they're very closely connected.
Right.
And in Kashmir and in northern India, Saptarishi calendar is still used by some people. I took that as the basis of the Yuga cycle. For tracking the Yuga cycle, you need a calendar.
Right.
And what I arrived at is this Saptarishi calendar was used for tracking the Yuga cycle. And that's how I came at the date of 2025 for the end of the Kali Yuga. So this is a very important portion of my thesis or my research. This is the primary key, we could say. Without that, I couldn't have been able to arrive at a specific date.
Mm-hmm. Apart from that, I think Saptarishi calendar, you have mentioned one other calendar, that is Kal Chakra Tantra. Tibetan monks, they follow this Kal Chakra, and Kal Chakra is very familiar to us as well. Kal Chakra, we have that in Indian flag also, Chakra is there.
Chakra is there.
A lot of people don't know that. It's again, that denotes that time is cyclical.
Yeah.
But Kal Chakra is again, if you can tell us about that, it was interesting to listen.
Yeah, the Kala Chakra Tantra was transmitted from India to Tibet. What happened is when the Islamic invasions were happening and all of these Buddhist monasteries were destroyed in India, a lot of these people, they escaped to Tibet and they took the Buddhist knowledge with them.
Okay.
And the Kala Chakra Tantra is their version of the Yuga cycle. And the Kala Chakra Tantra is also tracked by the Saptarshi calendar. So they use this 100-year, Saptarshi stays in every nakshatra for 100 years. And the Kala Chakra Tantra says that in the Kali Yuga, there are going to be 32 kings. Actually, it should be 30. They inflated it by 2. Each ruling for 100 years, adding up to 3,200 years. That is the basis of the Kala Chakra Tantra. And they start counting from 976 BC, which is also a Saptarshi calendar starting date. Okay. So they are also using the Saptarshi calendar to track the Yuga cycle. And by that, I understood that in ancient India, we must have also used the Saptarshi cycle to track the Yuga cycle because this information was carried from India to Tibet. So Saptarishi calendar was the primary mechanism for tracking the Yuga cycle. And what they say is that over these 3,000 odd years of the Kali Yuga, there's going to be an increase in materialism, there's going to be an increase in violence. And finally, at the end of this age, Avatar is going to come, whom they call Rudra Chakrin. And Rudra Chakrin is going to destroy all the barbarians in a battle and is going to establish a perfect age. So this information ties in with what we know about the Kalki Avatar coming at the end of the Kali Yuga, destroying the barbarians and reestablishing peace. So this whole information is very much in resonance with what we know from the Indian tradition.
I remembered of the story of Noah. That's what mentioned before the calamity. Noah was there to save everyone. But I have also a different story, sir. When a lot of people have said that, okay, the manifestation of Noah itself made that happen. A different side of it, that, okay, fine, Noah was warning everyone that be careful, God will show his actions. And if we can say we are the Noahs right now, we are manifesting that, okay, this Kalki avatar is being a manifestation from our side, maybe. But yeah, it's actually important because if we don't change, there'll be no betterment for anyway for the Mother Nature. Mother Nature will take its own action, and that's what is happening. Mother Nature will always try to cure itself, and it is in the course of that it will give us a lot of calamity, which is happening right now, and there'll be a lot of doomsday for that. And Kal Chakra Tantra, when you said we have 32 kings, we have had popes also, sir. They are claiming that there's the last pope. This one is the last pope. He's about to die. I don't know he's dead or not, but he's in a critical situation right now. So they also claim the very same thing, apart from this Buddhist monks as well.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of different kind of prophecies are now coming together. I mean, there's a in Western America, Native Americans have a prophecy of the white buffalo calf woman. She was a lady goddess who came to the Sioux people, the Sioux tribes, and gave them all their laws and ceremonies. And she said that when this cycle comes to an end, I'll come back again, and I'm going to purify the world and make it new again. And my coming will be heralded by the birth of a white buffalo calf, meaning a white bison calf, which was spotted in the Yellowstone National Park last year. And the Native Americans, they're extremely ecstatic that finally that prophecy has come true. It's a thousand, it came, I think it's been remembered for nearly 2,000 or 3,000 years. And they're ecstatic and they're saying it's a warning and a blessing. And ever since that prophecy was fulfilled, we have started seeing a lot of these events, the fire events and the flooding events also happening. So it's almost as if the planetary mother has woken up and she has decided that, enough is enough. I am going to go about, cleaning the planet. And people have to wake up and realize that, planet Earth is not a place where you come to gain power and only to have fun or to accumulate wealth. You take none of that into your next incarnation. The only thing you take into your next incarnation is your consciousness and your good karma.
Yeah.
So that's what we come here to do, and we have completely forgotten that purpose. And we think that technology is an end in itself, wealth is an end in itself, and that there's no other purpose to our existence. And that shift has to come about, and it's going to come about through a variety of different mechanisms, through Mother Earth, trying to clean herself, through the new energy which is coming in from the central black hole.
And also
all of
there is
that.
a new meteor or comet.
Comets are also going to appear, and through all of these geopolitical challenges which are now appearing in the world. So all of that will serve to remind us of our higher purpose. So ultimately, the idea is not to punish humanity, because humans have been created by gods, and we are actually gods. Internally, we are gods. We don't realize that. And that realization has to come, and we have to be pushed in that direction. So its idea is not to punish anybody, but to make us aware of our higher purpose.
That awareness or the unawareness actually makes us the NPA or a player of the importance. NPA, I mean, NPA is non-performing asset or something. I don't exactly know, but that is the thing, awareness or the unawareness about things that keeps us in the loop or gets out of the loop.
Exactly, because as long as you're not aware, you are actually wasting another incarnation. You need not be here for so many incarnations. You can get out in a few incarnations, but if you're not aware, then how can you do the right things?
People want to come and enjoy the Maya every single time. I don't know how they do that. A lot of people like me, I'm already bored. That's why I think maybe I was not that great in studies. I was not so very reliant on books. I think for me, world was a teacher. It has been like that. This meteor strike 2032. They're happening in 2032. A lot of people are scared about that as well. Scared to their death because they are unaware that comets or meteors also throw some DNA on us, or maybe there's some carrying some forces which will impact us a lot. Can you put some light on that, sir?
Yeah, there's this discovery came about this year about this 2032 asteroid, but that risk has already been downgraded. So now the risk is no longer there. But thing is that it puts that 2032 date into the public consciousness, and the reason why that is important is because this is another swarm of comets called the Taurid swarm. And we pass through the center of this swarm every 2,500 to 3,000 years, when it actually bombards us with some meteors and asteroids. And that's when this shift over takes place from one age to the other. And we're passing through that swarm in 2032 and 2036. So those two dates are very crucial for us, because there could be some amount of disturbance in those years. But the other thing about comets is that, and which I have explored in detail in my book, is that comets were represented by the ancients as birds, as horses, as dragons. And these are also the kind of animals that were associated with our gods. So they said Vishnu rides a Garuda bird, which is a bird. Indra rides a horse. And then Marduk, who is the god of the Babylon, he rides a dragon. And there's some serpent riding gods. So in my book, what I've said is that when the ancients were talking about their gods riding on certain animals through the sky, they were actually representing these comets. They were saying that when a particular comet arrives, they identified it as one of their gods or as the emanation of his energy. Just like we identify certain planets with the gods, Jupiter or Saturn, We identify the constellations with the gods. In the same way, they identified some specific comets as the gods or as the energy of their gods. And when these comets appeared, they brought about a lot of changes. The ancients always say that the comets are the harbingers of doom. They're the portents of disaster, because whenever a comet comes, what happens is you might have famines, or you might have pestilences, you might have wars, or kings dying. Big shifts used to happen whenever a large comet came very close to our planet.
Yeah.
And that is the period that we might go through in 2032 and 2036. When we pass through that swarm, you might see a lot of changes in our world. Comets also bring, like you said, comets are said to be bringers of DNA. There's a cometary panspermia theory, which says that comets bring DNA to our planet and seed it with new life. Just like birds, birds, they fly across, the wintering birds who go from northern hemisphere to equator. They actually carry a lot of seeds in their plumes. And when they fly over, they drop those seeds, and that's how they seed life on our planet. In the same way, comets appear to be doing the same thing in our solar system and across solar system. When they move from planet to planet, they keep seeding those planets with different kind of DNA molecules. And they also bring water. All the water that we have on the earth, none of that water was there when the earth was first formed. All the water on our earth was brought by comets. And the ratio of heavy water to normal water that we have on our planet's oceans is the same ratio that we have within comets. The ratio of heavy water to normal water in comets, same as the ratio of heavy water to normal water in our oceans. And heavy water is D2O. D2O is an isotope of hydrogen. It's not H2O. D2O is an isotope of hydrogen which has one more neutron. So that's why it's called heavy water. So comets serve a very important purpose in the evolution of life, in the seeding of life, and also in the destruction of life. They're almost like gods, destroying and recreating, destroying and recreating. And that is the period that we might encounter from 2032 to 2036, which is why that is what I believe was also represented as the Kalki avatar coming on a horse to destroy civilization, because these comets are also regulated by higher intelligences. The comets, they are, that's why they were called the Vahanas of the gods, because some higher forces, they're using them to carry out the purpose of the periodic destruction and renewal of civilization. And so the years 2032 and 2036 are very important from that standpoint. We could see a lot of changes on our planet at that point. But the pace of change, I believe, is going to accelerate from this year itself. The pace is going to increase so that more and more people become aware that we are entering into a period of transition. And this is the time that we try to recollect the ancient wisdom and try to live in tune with nature.
That the comets and the meteors have always been there. People, I think we have heard in the stories. वो तारा टूट के जा रहा है, you should make a wish quickly. If you make the wish, it will happen. And that is why I think all the logic which we have been given in stories, in terms of stories, is actually true. So there has been shifts, and every shift we have gone through, we have seen a lot of calamities, a lot of stories have come out of that shift as well. So I think this is the time wherein a lot of stories will also build up when the comets are coming or the accession is happening. So what do you...
the shifts keep on happening. Let's take the Indus Valley. It was there from around 3,400 BC. That's how far it goes right now. From 3,400, 3,500 BC, and it disappeared by 1,000 BC. Mm-hmm. So that was, and along with that, the Egyptian civilization. It was there from 3,500, disappeared at around 900 BC. The Mesopotamian civilization. So you have these big civilizations coming up and then disappearing. And now we are in the last phase. And all these civilizations that we have today.
And Atlantis city, which is not there anymore. It's submerged.
Yeah, that is the Golden Age civilization. That is Satyug. And the Egyptian civilization and the Indus Valley, they were all a part of the descending Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga has two parts: the descending part,
starting of Kali Yuga,
starting of Kali Yuga, and then there was the midpoint of Kali Yuga when they all disappeared. And then we have the ascending Kali Yuga when you have all these new civilizations starting from Greece and the Gangetic Valley in India, the new Persian civilization, the Chinese civilization, they all started at around 700 BCE, the current crop of civilizations.
Starting with their own religions and
Exactly, and the kind of religions that you had in the new civilizations of the Iran is starting from around 700 BC. It was so different from what you had in the earlier civilization. The Egyptian civilization, it does not exist anymore. The Indus Valley practices and beliefs, some of it has been carried forward, but we have developed so many new ideas and so many new systems. Buddhism came up, and there was a time in India when India was nearly entirely Buddhist during the time of Ashoka. So new religions came up, new cultures, and now you have new technologies. So every yuga has its own flavor.
correct.
And right now, since we're in the Kali Yuga, the energies are such that we start to disregard the ancient wisdom. We start thinking that all the ancient tales are mythological, because a lot of that evidence has also disappeared because of floods and all of these calamities. And it's very difficult to find out each and every piece of evidence. So we start to disregard all of that information.
Greeks and the Egyptians, the Indus Valley and the South India, we have had religions who are focusing on human growth, human awareness. They've had eyes of the third eye, the Horus eye. Everyone focused, every religion in the beginning, they focused on enlightenment. And that is what I think is missing still and in the decession cycle. Now, when you say accession will start, that is when people will realize that, yeah, we as a human, we have to evolve more than anything right now.
Yeah, right. Even if you look at 2000 years back or 2500 years back when Buddha was here, he had so many followers, and then there were so many monasteries, and people were actually trying. In those monasteries, everything was taught. They taught mathematics and astronomy along with religion and philosophy and meditation and all the practical techniques by which you can clear your consciousness, you can raise your vibrations, you can get rid of egoic desires, any kind of past karma that is haunting you. You can get rid of that. Anything that is causing frustration or anxiety, but today's society, you don't have that fallback option. There's nobody to guide you or to help you in case you're not feeling happy or you're feeling frustrated or depressed. You don't find the source of wisdom, and it's not taught to us in school. It's not there in college, and in our outer society, you don't find it in companies or governments. So you have to go and start looking for some saintly person, somebody somewhere, and you don't even know
That
if that
might be
person.
also not a real person.
He may try to exploit you, and then you're in bigger trouble. So that is the problem with the society today, that if you are in a spot of bother, if you don't really know what's happening to your life and what you should really be doing, it's very difficult to find the right information and the right source. Whereas in the golden age or in the higher ages, you got the information directly from the source. And today you might
From
do
the sound, I think, from the talking, from the words.
from enlightened people who used to live there. They used to give you the truth and the information without asking anything in return.
True.
But today, you won't get that information. Even if you do a Google search, you might get 1 billion results, and all of them might be inaccurate. You don't know how accurate that information is. There's so much of propaganda that you can't make out which is true and which is not. So that's the problem with us today. We have to struggle to find the truth. And unless you find the truth, you can't mold your life around that. If you can easily find the truth, then you can build your life around that, and you can have a happy, fulfilling, prosperous life. But if you don't have the truth, then all your life you're struggling.
This is what it is very important. So finding the truth and understanding and realizing the truth, at least. There are people who are living in a different truth altogether at the same time. But that is what is important. But yeah, that's what society nowadays, if I tell them that, okay, I want to open up my chakras and I have been following discipline for my chakras, then my father itself, he will say that, why are you doing that? Do you want to become a Baba or what? Why? Just go and study and make money out of things. But maybe this is what we have to change in our coming generations, and that is how it can happen. That is why we are getting warnings now, and the next upcoming generations should understand that they are important as a soul, not just an entity, a body who has come to enjoy on earth. And that is how I would end this 1 hour of podcast with you giving pointers on what is next in the coming future, in the 15 years or 100 years, what we will be seeing. This is not the end of Kali Yuga, but this is another phase of Kali Yuga wherein we will be enlightened more if we are putting attention and all our observation into it.
Yes. So, thing is that there's a positive side and a negative side. On one hand, you'll get the opportunity to find out more about yourself, generate more self-awareness, come in contact with your inner self, live in a state of peace and harmony. But on the other side, there's also going to be more disruptions in the outer world, more discord, more war, maybe natural catastrophes. So you have to, first thing you have to do is you have to detach yourself from what is happening outside and put more focus on your inner development. That's the first thing you need to do. Second, you have to work out any kind of past karma that you have, because you can't carry all of that baggage into the higher age. So work on that, make amends, make apologies if necessary, and come back to a state of balance. And third thing you have to do, you have to open up your mind to other possibilities. Right now, a lot of people think that I know everything. And you
Yeah.
have seen that. I mean, the less a person knows, the more confident he is. And the opposite is also true. The more you know, the less confident you
That's
are.
not. Yes, yes.
Yeah. So you have to open up your mind to other ideas, other possibilities, and not think that whatever you know right now is the be all and the end all of truth. So this is a time to expand your awareness, dissolve those egoic blockages.
Correct.
And you also have to come back into balance, like I told you about dharma, artha, kama, moksha. That's the state of balance we need to come back into. And then, manifest your potential, manifest your whatever you have within yourself, your purpose. All of us have some kind of a deep purpose in us.
Of
You have to
course.
find out what that purpose is, and then build your life around that, instead of just following the crowd and just working as a mind controlled slave of a consumerist society. That's not what you have come here to do. You must get that into your mind. You have come here for a specific purpose. Try to find out that purpose, live that purpose, and then that is when you're fulfilling the purpose of your incarnation. Do not waste your incarnation chasing illusions. Fulfill your purpose of incarnation. That's all you can do. We can't do anything more than that.
True.
We can only fulfill our purpose, the purpose we have come here to do. And once we have done that, we have done very well. If Kaligo is ending, if there's going to be calamities, let it be so, because none of us are immortal anyway. We all come and go. We'll get many more chances. But at least let's make this incarnation count.
Exactly. And that is why I got this podcast done, and you are the first one to give an interview, because I am here also for a purpose. Just because I've got a good voice, and I say that this good voice has come only from two people, mother and father, my gods, they are my gods. And if I have been gifted with a voice and skill, a bit of skill of anchoring, I should put I should put my purpose in a good way and to make people learn about good things. I have been trying to do that. I have been also learning in this phase, and that is why I could start with this podcast. I've had a lot of people in my mind to start off with that, okay, I thought this person, that person, this person, but looking at the current scenario, I think you were the right suited person for me. That okay, what is going on Earth? We needed to understand that, and I think you had better explain it in a very good way. And your book Yuga Shift also, I would ask people to go through it, understand, because I think a lot of anecdotes you have given in that, and you have told everything about what is going to happen in there.
And you can also visit my website, Ancient Inquiries. It's my name, www.bibhudevmishra.com. And if you're not into reading books, there are a lot of articles there on the book. So you
Correct.
can read those articles and get a sense of what I'm talking about.
I know you're targeting me on that, but yeah.
No, this is for everyone.
No, no. Sir, I closed the books the day I was done with last engineering paper. मैं बोला अब नहीं होगा पढ़ाई मेरे से. I should just go and learn out in the universe. But I will attach all your links and all everything about you in this video itself, sir. Thank you so much for your time. It was really nice talking to you. And obviously, I'll come back to you again and I'll disturb you more, because a lot of things are going to happen again in a few more coming months and a year as well. But yeah, I will get back to you because people will need more clarity. If this video was not helpful for them to understand, we will break it down more for them so that they understand a little more. And we will see this video how it is there, and we will request them to even go to you and talk to you. And if they have the right question, they should put it across to you as well, sir.
Well, thanks for having me on that show. It's a pleasure. And it's a great honor to be the first, person on your podcast. And I wish you all the best in this journey.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.